Hey everyone, it's me. I want to talk about an intervention I did quite a few years ago, and I don't remember the year. I just remember um, the circumstances surrounding the intervention, and this has to do with an aunt of mine, my mom's younger sister, who never left my grandparents' home. She worked, had a job, but then stayed. She just never moved out and had her own place. So my grandma and grandpa, she lived with them. She became their caretaker, and that's just the way it was. So every time you go to my grandma and grandpa's house, she always had a beer next to her. That's all she really ever drank. I don't know if she drank anything else, but she always had a beer, and she was always pleasant. She wasn't the kind of person that drank and became belligerent. She was just pleasant and kind, and over time, you just knew the life was draining out of her. She wasn't as lively, she wasn't as energetic. You could just see a change in her demeanor, her stance, her. And so I would talk. I knew she was always drinking, and she always had a case of beer in the basement, maybe two, I don't remember. Um, but I'd say to my mom and my aunts and uncles, do you guys think maybe someone should say something or do something, because it's really important. This is affecting grandma. This is after my grandpa had passed away, and then my grandma and her were two peas in a pod. And everyone said, no, it's grandma's house. She makes the rules, etc. And I'd say, yeah, but she's really sick. She's really sick. And by this time I had been through Al-Anon, had done the intervention with my dad, and I knew my aunt needed. And so I don't remember what year it was, but my grandma called the family and said that my aunt was outside shoveling, had fallen and had broken her wrist. And that actually wasn't the truth. And when you're involved with someone who's an alcoholic, you cover for them. The truth is that my aunt went down to the basement, fell, broke her wrist, couldn't get up. So my grandma called for her, went down to the basement. My grandma wasn't strong enough to pick her up, tried to get a pillow under her, still wasn't. So my grandma said, we're going to call the ambulance. And my aunt said, no, please don't. And then my grandma called and they got her into the hospital. So my grandma fessed up, and I said, don't you guys think it's time? Because this is really affecting grandma in a negative way. So the family was called to a meeting at their local church. They had an AA sponsor in the room. I was told of the meeting, and they knew I had done an intervention with my dad, so I was asked to come by my mom. And in the room at the head of the table was the AA sponsor, then my aunt, grandma, I think my uncle, my mom, a couple of my other uncles, and then I sat opposite the AA sponsor at the other end of the table. And my uncles were all crying. Everyone was upset. And I went in matter of fact, because now we're dealing with alcohol, and you have to separate your feelings and emotions and all of that. And everyone's talking and crying, and then I finally said, so-and-so, are you an alcoholic? Yes. I said, are you going to stop drinking? Well, no. And I said to all of my uncles, I said, your tears don't affect her because she loves the alcohol more than she loves you at the moment. It's just the way it is when it comes to this type of situation. And I said, I looked at my grandma and I said, Grandma, you have to make a decision. Are you going to stop allowing alcohol in your home? And my aunt said, you can't do that. And I said, this is Grandma's house. Her name is on the title and the deed. Grandma, you have to make a decision. Are you going to stop allowing alcohol in the house? And my grandma was crying, and she said yes. And I said, then that's it. It's done. I said, Grandma, I will come home with you tonight. I will sleep on the couch, because if she goes through withdrawals, I don't want you to have to deal with it. I'll be there, etc. And so I said to my aunt in the meeting room before we were dismissed, I said, would you like me to pick up anything for you to drink outside of alcohol? She goes, well, some Coke. I think I picked up Coca-Cola or something. And I did. And I went to the house, slept on the couch in the living room, which was rock hard. I didn't really sleep. And my aunt got up. I said, how you doing? She says, I'm fine. And that was that. And then after, fortunately, my mom, I think, came to relieve me of my shift. And we just wanted to make sure she wouldn't go through withdrawals and my grandma wouldn't have to deal with that. But she, through a couple of days, I don't know if she went through withdrawals. I did not hear about it. Nobody mentioned it. So, but for the grace of God, I don't know what she went through after she stopped drinking. And she stopped drinking. And from what I heard, people would bring her O'Doul's once in a while, which probably was never, I think, a good idea. But I just want to say, had I not been through Al-Anon, I wouldn't have known what to do. But when you separate the substance from the person and you look at it as a matter of fact, it's easier to get through it. So that's my experience with that intervention, and I'll be back.